G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm just going on a bushwalk on Monday late afternoon, and as you can see, this used to be a little bridge area here. Not quite sure what happened or how long ago it was in operation, but it's great during COVID-19 to be able to discover all of these new paths and these new areas in the suburbs that we live in, given that we've been living under restriction for a few months now. But I just absolutely love just going on these bushwalks and checking things out. Oh, I don't know what's up there. I can see some red. I might go and check it out later on to see what's happening up there. But anyway, let's go on a bit of a walk and talk. Today I want to go through a book summary entitled How to Change by Katy Milkman. Katy's put together a book entitled How to Change, and I guess we get plenty. There's plenty of material on change management and how we change and how we can improve. But I guess what I've learnt is, rather than to just fob these things off and just ignore them, every single book that I've read, it just never ceases to amaze me that there could be just one or two little morsels of information, a couple of things, a couple of hacks that you can pick out of these books that, even though they say what everybody else says, sometimes they say it in a little different way, and they give it a context which really resonates with us. So what I'm trying to suggest here is that reading is very, very powerful, and you just never know. Sometimes I've read a whole book and there is just one sentence in that book which made the whole book worthwhile. So you don't have to, pick up a book and have, gold on every page, so to speak. But what we're saying is that you can do it, and all you need to do is just pick out one hack which can change your life, save you pain, and make you some money, potentially. So what this author here says, and she kicks off her book by saying that the closer we are to someone, the more we perceive their situation, that it resembles our own. And the fact that the reason why we're close to certain people is there are certain aspects of them that resonate with us. But what the author says is that you realise that their situation resembles your own in some ways, and the more likely we are to be influenced by their behaviour. As Steve Covey, Jim Rohn, and all of the greats say, that the circle of people that you look up to, or you hang out with, or you spend most time with, those half dozen people are going to rub off on you, so that you end up being the average of those half dozen. So we need to be very selective in terms of who we look up to. We need to be very selective and discerning in terms of what books we read, what programs we listen to. Even though we can guard our minds and we can manage what we take in and put it into the right context, what does happen, according to this author and other authors, is that sooner or later, if you keep on hearing the same old story over and over again, even though it's disempowering, even though it's wrong, even though it doesn't help you, what happens is you absorb it, and it enters your subconscious, and it becomes part of your thinking process. So at some point, sooner or later, you're going to start thinking like your best friend. You're going to start behaving like your better half. You know, you're going to fall into certain habits. And it happens step by step. So it doesn't happen exponentially, but it happens step by step. And before you know it, you know, you're a changed person. But here is the important thing. You can either be a changed person in a better way, or you can be a changed person in a worse way. And as my mother and father used to say, show me your friends and I'll tell you what sort of person you are. It's a similar sort of message coming from this author as well. But in terms of the formal points that come out of this book, the author reminds us and encourages us to look forward to having a fresh start. And every day when we wake up, you know, in reality, is a fresh start. It's a new day. So the author says here that using a fresh start can make changing easier. Fresh starts, we have plenty of fresh starts in our life. You know, we've got a new year, we've got a new month, we've got a new season, we've got a Monday or a Sunday. You know, of course, the Christians, the first day of the week is Sunday, and for business people, Monday is the first day for most people of the work week. But we've also got things like birthdays, Easter, new semesters at university. So there are plenty of opportunities for us all to engage in a fresh start and use this as a starting point to give us a new perspective and put a gap between before and what we now aspire to. It's a powerful concept, but how many times do we, have these fresh starts? We make all these plans, we make all these decisions, and by, I think it's the 14th, I think somebody said it, by the time we get to the 14th or the 15th of January, all the New Year's resolutions are shelved for another year. So what we need to do in order to change, according to the author, is we need to make a break. We need to break our pattern, break our routines, and create a distraction for us long enough in order for us to move in another direction. But what the author reminds us of and suggests here is that we need a balance. We need breaks. We need the fresh starts so they are not too disruptive. As they say in the classics, if you take a bottle of milk and you keep on shaking it, keep on changing it, keep on shaking, the cream will never get an opportunity to rise to the top. So we need fresh starts, we need to make changes, but we also need to make sure that we don't do it too often, because by doing it too often, it can be disruptive, according to the author. So the second point, the second formal point to come out of this book is that there are some simple strategies you can employ to fight off impulsivity and procrastination. Tell me about it. I'm a very impulsive sort of person, always have been, so that's one of the things that I guess is a disadvantage, but it's also an advantage because I'm really, really good at starting things. Not too good at finishing them off, but really good at starting things. So, but the good news is, according to the author, is that most people are impulsive and are easily distracted. How easy is it to reach for a chocolate instead of an apple? How easy is it for us to be consumed by social media rather than sitting down and studying or reading a novel or a book that's going to expand our mind rather than to narrow our mind. Impulsivity, from a scientific perspective, is known as present bias. There you go, we've got a name for it. I didn't know that being impulsive is a bias on the present. But that's good, because we know that being mindful is all about being present. So we'll take that with a tick. And we're also living in a world, as we all know, where we're distracted by instant gratification. And very rarely these days are we patient enough to wait to achieve a long-term goal when all we want to really do is just achieve our short-term objectives. In order to fight impulsivity, let's examine this and see where it leads us. So in order to fight impulsivity, we need to try a thing called temptation bundling. Now, what does this mean? Temptation bundling. So an example of a temptation bubble is where you can be running on a treadmill and watching your favourite show. So basically bundling activities together so that you don't get distracted because you're doing 2 or 3 things at the one time. So you're physically exercising and you're also exercising your mind at the same time. Another thing that people can incorporate into their process, according to the author here, is another technique known as gamification, where you make real-world tasks more appealing by adding gaming elements to them, such as keeping the score or adding rewards. I know that helps with my grandchildren, turning things into fun, turning things into some sort of competition. And similarly, what the author is saying is that we can change if we're keeping scores. I know that if I weigh myself every day, I'm in a better position to maintain my weight or lose weight rather than gain weight. But if I don't weigh myself every day, I always get on the scale and get bloody shocked. I'm sure there's a few of us like that. And the other side of the issue that a lot of people face is procrastination, not being able to make a decision. And dare I say, a lot of anti-vaxxers are full-time expert procrastinators, people who need absolute perfection and certainty before they make a decision for fear of making a mistake and being ridiculed. So let's get on to the last point from this book, where the author says is to be very mindful who we spend our time with. We've said it before, and we'll finish off by saying it again, because peers, believe it or not, have a massive, massive influence on who we are and who we become. Because, like it or not, consciously and unconsciously, we're being steered and pressured and guided via social and peer pressure. So peers have a massive impact on who we are, and it's important to realise it. And sometimes it's tough to make a decision to cut people out of your life because they've been part of your life. Same token, we need to also understand that if we're going to grow, develop, and to manage our sanity, we need to make some decisions and to stop procrastinating and just make that cut or make that move that will help us become better citizens in our own world. So the bottom line, and it's very, very simple. Our parents have taught us this from a very young age. Make sure that we surround ourselves with good people, people who help us grow, develop, and become better versions of ourselves. And people who we can learn from, people who we can mirror, people who we can take and learn from, rather than people who are going to be taking and draining us of our energy, our dreams, and our perspectives. So I think I'll leave it there on this beautiful Monday afternoon. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me on this little bushwalk today. I've stopped because I've trodden on my shoelace and I need to do it back up before I cross over this creek. Otherwise I'll end up sprawled in the water and on the rocks, and who knows. Getting an ambulance here is going to be a trick. But thank you very much, and I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment, where we can become partners in each other's growth and development, where we can live, learn and pass it on, and basically pick up little techniques. And as I say, these are not techniques that I'm passing on in terms of my own experience. This is OPE. This is other people's experience that we've been able to glean from their books by studying book summaries and basically presenting the top 3 points. So thank you, and I'll speak to you again, and hopefully we can catch up again tomorrow where we go through another book summary. So I'm going to go home tonight, and I've run out of little book summaries, so I'm going to go sit down and summarise another 10 or so books. And be ready to kick off again tomorrow and make the most of the days that we have available to us. Yasas, and bye for now.